trusting that you are resourceful, trusting that you can create, trusting that you can succeed, trusting that you have everything within you that you need, right? Like that would be the biggest thing, is the self-trust factor.
Hey guys, welcome to our SoulFam Podcast, where I interview space holders from all over the world. I'm your host. My name is Karolina, and I am the manifestation mentor and connection catalyst. Today on the show, we have Emily-Jane Sarroff, the six-figure business and mindset coach. Welcome to the show, Em. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm amazing. And I love how big your energy is right now as well. I'm so excited for this episode.
Me too. I'm super excited because I love to talk about business, especially from a female perspective, because I feel like we have a lot of men, high achievers who are working hard, getting things done. But to hear about it from a woman, I think it's a different, alternative, polarizing perspective that is also equally as important. And there's not many women in my life that I've met. I mean, now that I have a podcast, that's more probably, but before that I didn't really have any women that were an example for me of how to lead a business in a feminine way. So I'm super excited to talk to you about business today and about the mindset and about the path of developing in your business and so on. So that's super exciting for me as well. Amazing. Thank you so much for being here with us. I'm sure that the audience is also super excited. And so let's start with a little bit of a backstory of yours. I would love to know what has inspired you to be the six-figure business and mindset coach. What has started your path and how did you evolve? Of course, in a big shortcut, because it's probably been years. But I would love you to share with us, like, where did it come from in your life?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty exciting journey that I've been on that brought me to this point. I've only actually been in the business space for 2.5 years now. Like, end of this year will mark the 3rd year for me in business. Prior to that, I was studying in the architecture industry. I was studying my master's. I was already working in the space as well. I had a really awesome job secured inside an architecture firm as well. And at that point in time, I was sort of just dabbling around in the online world, exploring different opportunities that were coming my way, such as network marketing or, making my own t-shirt brands and things like that, because I was always pulled towards doing something in this creative space. Like, I'm a very creative person naturally. I love to do art. I love to create things. And so that was sort of what I was exploring. And at the time, I had just dove into my own personal development journey. And with that, I had started my own podcast, the Empower With Them podcast. And that was really what ended up birthing and, bringing this business of mine to life. I was finding that I was pouring more of my time and my energy into this passion project of my podcast than what I was putting into my master's degree or my, office job that I had. And so that sort of woke something up within me that made me start to question, well, what is this path that I'm on at the moment and why am I on this path? And so I started to explore, like, how could I take this podcast that I created and turn it into a business opportunity? And from there, I just found that more and more doors began to open, which then led me into the coaching space. So at 22 years old, I decided to quit my master's degree. I quit my 9-to-5 job and I just went all in and I started a mindset coaching business. I had zero previous experience. I mean, I had dedicated the past 5 years to architecture, which is so far from anything that this personal development space is, but I lent into it anyway because intuitively I felt myself really being pulled into that direction. So what that meant is I dropped out of my degree, I quit my job, and I invested my entire savings of $10,000 into a business coach because I had zero idea what I was doing in the business space, but I had a big vision and I knew I wanted to get there fast. And so to me, making that investment, yeah, it was risky, yeah, it was uncomfortable, but that was paving the way for me to get to that 6-figure business that I wanted to create. And so 8 months later, I became a 6-figure business owner. And from that point, I naturally had people in my audience coming to me asking me for business help. So that became the natural progression for me to move from, specifically mindset coaching into becoming a mindset and business strategist for other entrepreneurs who are really wanting to go on the same sort of journey as what I did.
Wow, this is really cool and really inspiring, and I can see so much of a reflection of myself in you because I remember when I was doing my master thesis in sustainable energy, because I'm a sustainable energy engineer, and then at the same time I had my side job as a student being a barista in a cafe, and I was like, I prefer to make coffee than calculate the heat pump efficiency. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was just like, it's probably not what I should be doing. And I finished my master's, but I was like, this is definitely not what I should focus my energy on. And only then I started like more of my healing business and so on. So that's really, really cool that we had like a similar path, but also like the path is similar. Okay, I think my table is moving a little bit, so the video is a little bit sketchy. Anyway, so I wanted to say that I literally invested more than I've ever invested in a coach like recently. And I feel like it's a similar kind of like story to yours, because when we kind of go beyond what we are comfortable with, but then we really trust it and we know intuitively that this is the way, like we will succeed. Because if we put our heart and our whole focus into it, it will work great for us. And so I'm really curious to know, because you've invested your whole savings, right? Like I also did pretty much the same thing right now, working with a coach. And so what do you feel like were the perspectives and the beliefs that you gained through working with this person that helped you, put you on a path and becoming a six-figure business, person so fast, right? Because you were probably lacking some perspectives, maybe some skills, maybe some stuff. So what were let's say, the milestones for you that once you changed that, it put you on a path of succeeding in business?
I really think the biggest thing that I gained from being inside that sort of container is I could see other people succeeding in the space that I wanted to succeed in. And that was something that I had lacked prior to stepping into that container, is I didn't know anyone else who was a coach. I didn't have anyone in my network that was on this path of entrepreneurship. Like, it was just me, and my family, they didn't understand it. Like, they were like, why are you And so for me, the biggest thing that allowed me to really drive myself forward and achieve those results that I did in that time was being around other people who were doing what I was doing, and also seeing them succeed at a high level as well, right? Seeing people who were multiple steps ahead of me, like that just put an extra depth of belief within me that then would drive me to take the action. And here's the thing, you can get business strategy from anyone, right? You can get business strategy from Google. You don't even need to pay a coach necessarily for the strategy, but it's that shift in your belief and that shift in your drive and that shift in your focus that coaches really can create for you, which I really think was the biggest takeaway I got from that container.
So kind of like anchoring more and seeing more examples in your life of that being true for other people, which then deepened your belief that, okay, I can do it too. If they can do it, I can do it. And I'm in the same container as these people. So if they can succeed this much, then I can succeed as well.
Yeah, just expanding what I believed could be possible for myself, right? Because I was coming out of a job where, I was working casually in the architecture firm. So I was probably only on like 20 grand a year or something like that, right? So I wasn't making much at all. So to then go from making 20 grand a year to making 20 grand a month, like that's a massive shift within your mentality that needs to happen. Like, you need to believe that can be possible for you. And so being in that sort of environment provided me with proof that people are already doing this. So why the heck can't I?
That's amazing. And so did you find any other limiting beliefs? Because you're a mindset coach. So when you work with clients, you probably see patterns of similar mindset blocks that people have, and then that block them from achieving what they want, really.
Yeah. I mean, there's always limiting beliefs that come up, and I find it doesn't matter what level of business you're at, there's always going to be some devil at that new level that you're at. And what I actually find is oftentimes it's the same limiting beliefs that follow us to the different levels, but we experience them in different ways as well. But generally, the biggest beliefs that I see from new coaches coming into the space is either they feel like they're not qualified enough, or they don't have big enough of a transformation that they can deliver someone. But all of this just really generally stems back to that feeling of they just don't believe that they're enough, right? And so then that's that core limiting belief that we really want to work towards building up, because as a business owner, if you inherently believe that you're not good enough, then you're never going to see the results that you want to see, or there's going to be a lot of resistance in achieving those results at least, right? And so that's probably the core belief that I would find that a lot of my clients really come back to, that we need to work through.
Mm-hmm. That makes so much sense, because I feel like all the people that I've worked with have some kind of unworthiness issue, and it doesn't matter which area of life it is. We're just kind of like our society and our family and the way that everything is structured right now in the world. Just, it's kind of like classic to have this belief in this or other way. And so we need to work, pretty much everyone needs to work on the self-worth in some way, I believe. And some people have done the work and maybe they don't have the unworthiness as much, but I find that everyone has some kind of unworthiness, which is freaking crazy if you think about it. It's insane.
It really is. And I think a lot of it, it's funny because a lot of it really stems from ourselves at the end of the day. Like a lot of the time, it's not necessarily other people projecting onto us saying that we aren't worthy, but instead we're perceiving certain situations and experiences in life in certain ways that makes us then put that projection onto ourselves and really embody that ourselves, right? So it's pretty crazy how, oftentimes the root of those beliefs really does just stem from us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, projection of our consciousness onto what's presented in front of us. Absolutely. And so I have a question, because about this kind of like stepping stones in business, because some people say, okay, to go from 4 figures to 5 figures, different from 5 figures to 6, from 6 to 7, and so on. So what have you found with you and your work and your clients? Like, how is this path different, and can we actually skip the milestones in a way, or can we just do such massive belief work and believe it so quickly and so strongly, kind of like you did in your container, that we can make 6 figures straight away and then like we are pretty much set? Or is this like a journey, more like from 4 to 5 to 6, and then if it's not a journey, if it's not gradual, then maybe the foundation is not fully covered? Because for example, a lot of people say, first do 101, craft the offer and craft how you're teaching or how you're doing things, and only then go to group, because it's easier to sell 101 than a group. And also with 101, you can have more kind of like insight into the person, so you can craft the offer better. And so then it's kind of like a gradual stepping milestones in a way, right? So it's not like straight away you go to group coaching, although I'm pretty sure there are examples of people that did straight away group coaching and succeeded, right? But like how did you find it as like a pattern, like statistically, let's say, what mostly comes up in your work, in your clients? Because you probably have a lot of coaches and healers that come to you, and so I'm curious to know, like, because I want a quantum jump, I want to go jump to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 figures, Like, and so what do you think?
I honestly believe that there's not one clear path for anything, right? There are different paths that people teach, there are different paths people take, but there's not just one size fits all when it comes to reaching those goals that you want to reach in your business or in your life. When it comes to financial growth, you can by all means, make $100,000 in your first month of business if you have developed the parts that need to be put in place in order to make that happen. Alternatively, it might take you 6 months to reach 100,000. It might take you 2 years or 6 years, right? There's no one size fits all approach when it comes to reaching these goals. Of course, we all want a quantum leap though. Like you said, we all want to go from, if we can, like, let's skip a step. Let's jump right up to those big cash months or those big cash years. And you can totally do that. And the real way to figure out how to do that is coming back to the simple question of, what parts of myself or my business do I need to develop in order to become that level of a business owner, right? And I ask myself this question all the time whenever I'm moving between different levels within my business. When I was working towards my first 10K month, I asked myself that question. When I worked towards my first 20K month, I asked myself that same question. Now that I'm projecting towards 40 and 50K cash months, I'm asking myself this same question again, of what parts of myself do I need to develop in order to become that person, right? And then that allows you to really reflect on, okay, well, maybe it's an aspect of my business strategy. Maybe it's my marketing that's lacking at the moment and needs to be enhanced in order to get that level. Or maybe it's actually something within myself, my organization, or my confidence, or my leadership, right? It allows you to find that clarity on those unique parts of you that need the most focus. But when it does come to business, there is like a framework, I guess I would say, that is going to lead you to whatever success you want to see. And there are core areas that you can be focusing on. But again, I would never say to someone, you have to implement this in this exact way, because what works for you might not work for the next person. And so that's why I always teach my students frameworks around business strategy rather than models, because the frameworks are very adaptable and can be customized to the individual. So if someone does want to start with group programs instead of one-to-one, then we can see how we can work with that as well. So I know that was a bit of a, in many directions, that response, but what did you want to feed back to me from there?
That's actually amazing. I absolutely love your answer. And I'm curious to know if you would be happy and open to share, for example, what came up for you when you asked this question for yourself, like, okay, I want to go to 10K a month. So what parts of you did you found that you needed to work then? And then if you wanted to do 20K, like what showed up for you specifically, so people can have some kind of like reference point of an example of what could potentially show up and what to work with.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you're working towards your first 10K month, for example, what I'm going to see is like the things that will be coming up there is coming back to your foundations, right? What are your foundations that you have in place for your business around your brand, around your offer, around your marketing strategy, and around your sales strategy? So if we're looking at that from a business perspective, they're really the four things, the four areas that we're really going to focus on looking at developing. Then when we're going from that 10K to that 20K point, right, we're looking at taking these core foundations we've put in place and amplifying them, duplicating them, right? Like seeing more results coming from them. And so that's when you ask yourself, okay, which part of these foundations that I've set are the weakest right now? Which is the part that I need to work on the most? But oftentimes I find the gap between the 10K to the 20K is all about your speed. Okay, the speed at which you're integrating, you're taking the action, the rate at which you're marketing yourself, you're getting calls booked, you're closing those calls, you're generating leads, right? So the gap oftentimes between that second level comes back down to your speed and how fast you're taking action on those foundations you already have in place. And then from there, that's when it starts looking into things such as leadership development, right? Like if you're wanting to go from 20K plus, then you're starting to look at, okay, well, I need to actually start bringing in a team or running paid ads. Like I need to start offboarding certain things so that I can put my time and energy in other places as well. And so then that's when you start to look at, okay, is it leadership development that you need to focus on? Or is it, refinement of systems further and so on? But it's very, like I said, it's very much dependent on the individual. Right? So that's why when you ask yourself these questions, you have to do an honest assessment of what's going on in your business right now to be able to see where those gaps are. But that would be a very general sort of like, stepping stone approach if I'm sort of reflecting on my past growth and the areas that I focused on development at each stage.
Beautiful. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much for sharing. And so I have a question about what you said before, because you said, okay, so you can uniquely align with yourself, because what's not aligned, you're probably not going to stick to anyway, right? So like, how do you know, or how do you guide people to know whether something is really landing for them in terms of like alignment, or whether something is not landing just because they have some kind of subconscious block or trauma or resistance in them, and then when they work through it, they will actually be able to do it? Like, for example, someone might be like, Instagram is not for me, I can't show up on Instagram live, or I can't be consistent, but then maybe they have some kind of like fear of commitment going on subconsciously. And then when they work through it, they will be able to show up on a daily basis, for example, right? So like, how do you go about discovering the alignment versus misalignment? What's really in your essence versus what's just trauma-based, resistance-based thing?
Yeah. I just ask them, how do you feel? How do you feel? And what is making you feel that? Right? And when you get clear on, okay, I don't feel good about this specific system that I'm putting in place. Okay, why don't you feel good about that? And you hold that space for them to take that time to really reflect and develop that awareness around that. Then they can see, okay, actually, I don't feel good about it because my 9 to 5 job is exhausting me. And so by the time I come around to do this activity, I'm in a very, very low place. And we know, okay, it's not the task itself. It's everything you're doing before doing that task that's messing with you. Or, you know, like you said, there's a fear coming up. I don't feel good about going live on Instagram because I'm scared that so-and-so is going to see me and judge me. Okay, now we know that that's a belief that we need to work through. So always asking them, when it comes to alignment and feeling out of alignment in your business, what do you specifically feel? And then starting to understand, why do you feel that way? And sometimes you might need to ask why 7 times over, maybe even more, so you can keep going deeper and deeper and deeper until you find the true reason why you don't feel good about that thing.
Absolutely. And sometimes what I like to ask also is like, what's the worst that could happen if you actually did that? Because then it like discovers your worst case scenario, so your biggest fear about the situation. So yeah, that's really valuable. And so what would you say to this first example that you said, okay, I'm too tired to do my social media after my 9 to 5? Like, what do you say to these people?
See, this is a really challenging part. And this is something that a lot of my clients are navigating at the moment, because they're in the process of leaving their 9 to 5 jobs, which means, you know, they're still working 9 to 5. And then with all the other responsibilities of life and having to fit clients and business in around that as well, it does get really exhausting. So the very first thing that I always tell my clients is, where have you dedicated time to rest? Right? Because that's the very first thing that you need to do. If you are feeling yourself burning out, and if you are feeling like you don't have any more energy to pour into your business because it's going everywhere else, first and foremost, honor what your body needs right now. Give yourself some rest. Schedule out the night or schedule off the weekend. Give yourself space to actually reground yourself and refill up your own cup, because you're not going to be able to move your business forward if you're stuck in that negative place anyway. And we also want to avoid you getting even deeper into that place, because then that's going to lead to burnout, which is going to, you know, potentially require you to stop everything that you're doing and just fully focus on rest, right? So always giving yourself space to rest is the first thing. And then we have a look at, okay, what is the time that you do have to work with, and how can we make this work for you? So what we'll look at doing is seeing, okay, if you finish work at 5 p.m. and you know that you're going to be in bed by 9 p.m., how much time do you have in between? What do you need to do in between? And how can we make sure that we're setting up your energy to be using the time that you do have most efficiently? So there's a lot of, you know, time and energy management that really needs to go into place when you are trying to build a business around your 9 to 5. But then also doing an honest reflection with yourself and asking, like, are you physically exhausted or are you mentally exhausted? Like, what is the cause there? Because if you're mentally exhausted, we're going to treat that in different ways to if you're physically exhausted. And there are still boundaries that you can sort of be stretching, or comfort zones you can be stretching within your business, depending on what it is you are feeling and where you are at as well.
Yeah, that's a great perspective to have. And also I feel like a lot of people would say like, okay, I'm so tired and like I kind of want to quit my job because I'm tired with this job, but I kind of don't want to do it because it keeps me safe.
Yeah.
And so how do you discover the point when people are actually like ready to quit their 9 to 5? Or actually, like, I wouldn't even recommend to quit it. I would recommend to go part-time first, because that's kind of like a safety, right, that we have, that we know how to do the job that we're already doing, and it's giving us some kind of like stable salary that gives us safety and groundedness and root chakra opening, that okay, we know how to handle it, right? And only then developing it more. So like, at what point you guide your clients to actually like quit it? Because some people who maybe are trying to do this, they don't know like at what point this is a good decision to make.
Well, I really allow my clients to self-guide themselves to discovering that, right? Of what point is the right time for them to be stepping away, because the right time for me to step away is going to be very different to the right time for the next person. And so I don't want to sort of project what I would do for myself, you know, my own biases into their situation. So I help them guide themselves to finding what's going to be right for them. And that takes a look at a range of different things, including, okay, like, what do you need financially in order to be able to step away? Like, where do you need your business to be? What are the actual logistics of the expenses that you need to cover, you know, when you do leave your job? And is that something that's feasible for you at this point? Or do we need to go part-time? Do you need to have a set amount of savings? Do you need to have a set amount of clients under your belt? Like, we look at all different factors so then they can make the most informed decision for themselves. But generally what I will guide my clients to do is first and foremost, get clear on the minimum amount they need to be making in their business to confidently step away. And then that gives us a tangible goal to be working towards. We can go, okay, if you just need $2,500 a month in order to cover all of your living expenses and get by, then that's the minimum you need to leave your job. Right. And so that minimum could be achieved with one client, or maybe it could be achieved with 3 clients, right? Again, how many clients do you want to be signing? Where are your prices at? And all that. We look at these logistics, and then we put the action plan in place to actually bring those clients in so that they can see, okay, this is the roadmap to me stepping away. But there are people out there who like to be a bit crazy like myself and go all in even before you feel ready. And again, this comes back to how do you work best? Because some people really thrive with that pressure that they create for themselves. Other people, that pressure has a negative effect on them. So that's also something that I explore with my clients when they're looking to leave their 9-to-5 jobs, is how do you perform best? What's the environment we need to create for you mentally and physically in order for you to be able to succeed in this transition you're going to make?
And so I'm really curious about, like, because, you know, quitting 9-to-5 is a goal of a lot of people, I feel, and not everyone actually knows how to do this. And I feel like this is such a hot topic. So what do you feel like is the fundamentals, again, of mindset that people need to go from, you know, being in the system, in the matrix, let's say, to being a leader, being an entrepreneur? Can you pinpoint a few strong beliefs that help people grow from here to there, that would really help them if they work through them?
One is obviously belief in yourself, right? And having that self-trust. I would say self-trust is the first one. Trusting that you are resourceful, trusting that you can create, trusting that you can succeed, trusting that you have everything within you that you need, right? Like that would be the biggest thing, is the self-trust factor. Another belief or another sort of quality I would say is having drive and resilience, right? So having the drive to put in the work. It's not going to be easy, especially not in the beginning, but you need to pick your hard. You can pick your hard being a 9-to-5 job, or you can pick your hard of being an entrepreneur, right? And you need to have the drive to push through even when that gets challenging, uncomfortable, painful, when you're facing every single fear that you didn't want to face, like having the drive to keep on going forward, right? And then resilience being the other thing. You know, you really need to be able to get back up if you are going to get knocked down. And I can guarantee you're going to get knocked down in business, right? You're going to get knocked down in so many things that you do in life when you are stretching your comfort zone, because you're not perfect. And all of it's a part of the learning journey, which means there's going to be failures, there's going to be challenges, there's going to be rejection, right? And so you need to be resilient enough to be able to get back up on your feet and keep on moving forward and growing through these experiences that you face. So self-trust, drive, and resilience would probably be 3 core qualities of an entrepreneur.
That's beautiful. And I feel like it also interconnects to what people say about having a strong why. And that's, I think, the drive. It's like, if you have a strong vision of the future and the change that you want to create in the world, thanks to the service or product or whatever that you're launching, then you can really be driven even through the challenges. Because, like, as you said, challenges in life and in business and in coaching business, especially because you work with people, will come up, and haters gonna hate, and you will encounter people who are just gonna be like, you're, I don't know, a force of Satan or whatever in the comments under your ads. Like, I've had this happen before. It's so funny. But then we need to understand that people are just gonna project their own shit on us based on their upbringing, based on their experience of the world, and just keep going. And I feel like, as you said, resilience, it's like not giving up, because there might be times that you're gonna be like on the edge. It's like, okay, should I do it more? Should I risk it and invest more, or should I quit it? But I feel like the biggest failure in business that we can make is giving up. Because when you don't give up, it's not really a failure. It's more like a lesson that we can grow from, and we can learn, and we take it from what we learned, and then we just change it, twist it, right? Even marketing. I feel like once my ex-partner, who was a hardcore marketer, he told me, look, in business, it's like this. You create 10 different ads, and maybe one of them will work, maybe 2 of them max. But like, you're pretty much setting yourself up for a failure 9 out of 10 times, looking for this one time that will work. And it's a great mindset, I feel, to have, especially if you want to quit your 9 to 5, to understand that you might need to just try 9 times, but when you hit this 10th time and hit it really well, then you can skyrocket. And then maybe next time you're going to need to expand a little more and then try again 10 different times or 10 different paths, right? 10 different methods. Maybe you can try different social media platforms. Maybe you can try different niche or whatever. Sometimes you need to just try and see what's aligned and see what works and what doesn't work. But then when you hit this point, it's going to really like help you out, right?
Totally. I feel like if you're not failing, you're playing it too safe. Right? If you're not experiencing failures in your journey, you're playing it way too safe. You're staying too much within your comfort zone and you're not stretching yourself, and you're not testing yourself, and you're not taking risks, right? Failure is a natural part of the process. And honestly, I truly believe that the only like true essence of a failure is if you don't learn anything from that experience. If you walk away from that quote unquote failure, having learned something, then actually that's a lesson, not a failure. Yeah. That's some new wisdom that you have gained that's now going to project you further ahead. So making a big reframe around how you do view failure is really important. And also just be willing to fail in the journey, because every single failure you make is a new lesson that you learn, which is a new golden nugget of wisdom that you acquire, which is then going to project you even further ahead.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all that. This is really, really great. And so is there anything else that you feel like people that want to quit the 9 to 5 should know, like kind of like a gold piece of advice just to like close this theme? Because I feel like it's really like alive now, because now that we have AI, now that we have all this like, you know, advancement, more and more people might be like, okay, I would like to try and see if it works, right? And in the age of internet and Instagram and TikTok and all these things, I feel like I would love to more and more people to have the opportunity to actually have their own business, because sometimes phone is all you need. And I don't know, 10 years ago, it wasn't possible for anyone to just have a phone and to have their own business. And so do you have any like golden piece of advice, like a final thing that you would like to share with all these people who are on this path of quitting their 9 to 5 and going into having their entrepreneurial journey?
Yes. I mean, there's so many more pieces of advice I could give, but there's 2 things that come up. One is asking yourself, you know, if you're holding yourself back right now, the first thing is asking yourself, what's the worst that could really happen, right? Because oftentimes we get in our head and think that, you know, it's going to be so terrible if we give this thing a try and it fails, right? But then we don't actually properly sit with it and go, okay, if worst case did happen, how bad actually is that? And oftentimes it's really not that bad, right? There's not really anything in life that you can't rebuild yourself out of. So worst case scenario, you quit your 9 to 5 job, your business doesn't work, you go find yourself another 9 to 5 job until you fill the gap again, right? So if you're holding yourself back right now, take some time to reflect on what's the worst that could really happen. And if the worst case scenario did happen, how would you build yourself out of it? Because when you can see that there is a way out of your quote unquote worst case scenario, all of a sudden it's not as scary as you think it actually is, right? That's the first thing. The second thing that I want to say is just learn how to manage your stress levels, right? A lot of the time people hold themselves back from leaving their 9 to 5 jobs because they're like, oh, it's going to be so stressful trying to figure out how to make a consistent income for myself, or this is going to be stressful, or that's going to be stressful, right? Like stress is a natural part of life. We all experience stress in everything we do. Our bodies experience physical stress when we go to the gym. We experience stress in relationships, in business, finances, all of it. We're constantly experiencing stress in life. But as a business owner, you really do need to learn how to actually manage your stress so that it doesn't hold you back. It's something that you can move forward through. And I'll tell you what, even in my business journey, even after hitting my first 6 figures, I still stressed about money, right? And then I realized stress is a state of mind, and I don't need to constantly be thinking that I'm stressed about this in business or stressed about that in business. Instead, I can just lean into my resourcefulness and my self-trust and know that, hey, I don't need to stress about this because I can carry myself through it. Okay. And so if you are wanting to make that transition, rather than telling yourself it's going to be so stressful letting go of my weekly paycheck, or it's going to be so stressful having to figure this out on my own, instead, learn how to manage your stress and also just get resourceful in finding the solutions to help you move through each of those stresses that are coming up for you.
Beautiful. So that could be, for example, like a nervous system regulation, or like working with your inner child, or working with your beliefs, or learning NLP techniques, or learning from people like me and you, or just literally like employing a coach who will show you and help you manage the stress with you, right? Because oftentimes really it's about managing resistance. Like if we have a goal that is higher than what we already know, it's like, okay, I have resistance to this goal, I have fear, I have powerlessness, or I have whatever, unworthiness. But then when you handle this resistance, it's like, oh, okay, now I'm at peace with this new level, and now I want to go to the even next level, because the desire never ends.
Yes, exactly that. And that's the thing. You're always going to experience different sorts of stresses in your life. So it's actually going to be doing you a really big favor, learning and equipping yourself with the skills to help you navigate these things a lot better. And I'd say that's probably been the biggest lesson I've taken from this last year in business, is learning how to walk with the duality of business and life, right? And those temporary stresses that do come up within each, and how to not allow those stresses to make my foundations crumble.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I would add to like the mindset of 9 to 5, or what my piece of advice would be, is to really learn to work with all parts of you. Like learn to work with your subconscious mind and your beliefs and your traumas, but also learn to work with your conscious mind and really be conscious of what your thoughts and emotions are. And then also learn how to connect to your higher self, to your higher vision, to your essence, to your heart, and what does your heart really desire, what you're meant to do in here. Because if you're going to connect to your heart and you feel like, okay, this is my big mission to bring this business into fruition, then it's going to be stronger and more powerful than anything else, right? And I myself created this modality. It's called Master Manifestation Method, where I walk people through this process, like working with subconscious, conscious, and superconscious. And I feel like it can be applied to anything, because if you want to start a new business, like you really also need to come from a place of, it's my essence that it's calling me to it. Because if it's always only going to be your mind's desire, and only your ego, only your personality, based on your upbringing, based on what the society told you is right, or your family wants you to do, that's not going to be really as big of a drive for you to even go through all these challenges and to face these resistance and to actually keep going. So what do you think about that?
Oh, completely. I couldn't agree more with anything that you've shared there.
Amazing. I'm really happy we're on the same page, because I feel like I'm also a mindset coach. I'm really big on mindset, and I feel like this is so important also to talk about this and pinpoint these beliefs for people, because sometimes when we just say something, people can resonate and be like, oh my God, yes, maybe I feel like I'm not enough there, or maybe I feel like I'm gonna fail, and then what's gonna happen. And so when we talk about it, it brings more clarity. So thank you so much for talking about it, because it's so important for every healer or coach that wants to start and grow their business. So I'm super grateful that you have agreed to be on our podcast. And I have one last little question to you. What's the best way to find you if people really resonate with you and would really like to know more, where they can see your content and find out more about you?
I'm so easy to find. So you can look me up. I'm Empower with M on Instagram, and also my podcast is Empower with M. So just chuck that into your socials. You'll find me. If you want to send me a message on Instagram, say hi, let me know that you came from this podcast episode. I'd love to have a personal chat with you and see where you're at in your journey as well. So that's where you can find me.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Em. I really appreciate it. It's been beautiful to talk to you, and just sending you so much love and gratitude for this conversation.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been so beautiful, and I feel like this was such a inflow conversation that we had today. So many gold nuggets came out, so I'm glad that we could share our collective wisdom with your audience.
Yay!